That's good stuff right there. Radically saved. I love the way that's put. I've shared different ones that I've met. Of course, many of you know that was my background, being in law enforcement for all those years, and it does happen. I mean, I've seen a lot of jailhouse conversions that were like, yeah, I'm not too sure about it. You're trying to get out, but I've seen some that, without a question, were the real thing. There's no doubt about that. The fuel for the journey is our message today. How do we get it? How do we get there? How do we make it? Turn with me, if you will, to the book of Acts, chapter 4. We're going to be, or chapter 1, verse 4. We're going to end this series today that we've been in, Finding Our True Strength. We're going to talk about this today. And I pray, over the course of these last several messages that they've been a blessing to you. We've really been looking at some deep stuff here, but I wanted to help in our walk, because when we think about walking, of course, that's a physical activity. When we think about our spiritual walk with the Lord, we want it to get stronger. We don't want that divide. We don't want that just vague, passing by, visit every now and then kind of relationship. We want that daily walk with the Lord. Amen? And that's what we really need strength for. So I hope that we've been able to provide and finish to this well today. As Paul would say, I want to finish my race well. I want to finish this messaging well. Today, I want to end with information. In other words, the fuel for the journey, the source, what is it? But I also want to end with a question. How do we make it? How do we get there? Have you ever got up in the morning, or maybe you're going through something in your life right now and you've asked yourself that question? Whether you've asked it to your spouse or maybe your best friend, or maybe you've just looked in the mirror and you said, how am I going to make it? How am I going to get this? And we've all asked ourselves that question at some point in time. How am I? And oftentimes we depend on that, our own strength, our own fuel source. Only oftentimes we realize we're not even running on quarter tank, and sometimes we're down to the fumes and we just don't know how we're going to do it. So I pray that what we say today is going to really encourage you. So turn with me again to the book of Acts. We find the scenario here, the backdrop, if you will, is the ascension is about to take place. Jesus is about to go home, and he's leaving some final instructions. What we need to grasp today, what I want us to gather today, is that the instructions that Jesus is about to give, the information that he is going to share in this, it's still valid right now. How many of us believe that today? God hasn't changed. The instructions are still the same, right? And so we see here in the beginning our mission. Where does this start? It's very, very simple, friends. Our mission as believers, okay? Our mission as believers is a very, very clear directive. Tell people about Jesus and use words when you have to. Now, there's a reason that I said it that way. There's a reason, because I want us to look at what commission they were being given. What is the power they were going? I think oftentimes when we look at going about this life, when we think about we get back to the call on our life that Jesus says, go forth and tell people about me. Sometimes I believe today that we see that get lost. We see it get lost in the middle of the confusion, in the middle of all the arguments over who is right. See, we have this battle going on in the world today. We've got the believer and the non-believer. Okay, that's a kind of a cat and dog kind of a thing. That's a natural battle, right? We see one over the other. I'm right and you're foolish, and back and forth. But we also see the battle within the church, right? Because we've got all these different ideologies and all these different belief systems and all this and all that. And our mission no longer remains our focus. Because oftentimes our mission becomes, I have to prove to you that my group is right. And the problem with that is the groups begin to fight over one another, and they begin to fight with each other. And Jesus kind of gets lost in the shuffle. And nobody gets to see him at all. We see the flashing signs and we see all the different stuff, but nobody sees what he's asked us to show. And so when one group spends more time trying to find fault with another, and this one tries to find this one and that one, again, Jesus becomes secondary over being right. This is why, as I've been studying a lot lately and really, really trying to narrow down what is our messaging? What is our directive? What is our clear point? Not only does it go back to absolutely that our mission is to show people Jesus, but I believe because of all the clutter and all the chaos and all the everything, I believe with all my heart, and I'm convicted of this, this is why Jesus said, follow me. He makes it clear, right? There's no confusion in that. There's no, I'm not sure which way to go. Which way did he go? We don't have any of that. It's very, very clear. Jesus said, follow me. Simple, clear, not confusing, not complicated, not overwhelming. You see, this life, sometimes we compare it, oftentimes Paul would compare it to a race. He would use that athletic analogy all the time. It is very, very easy. If we think about the idea of being in a race, if we compare that to the journey and it being long and whatever, it is very easy to do what? Quit. It is very easy to quit when it starts seeming like it's going to take too long. When are we going to get there? How long is it going to take? Are we there yet? That was developed in the 40 years in the desert. I believe poor old Moses, he was the first one that heard that, right? But we see here, it's a very easy thing to do if we're on that journey, and it's like, man, is this ever going to happen? I mean, just like again, it's been preached for 200 years that Jesus is coming back. Some people have given up on that. Well, it's taking too long now. But are we on God's time clock or ours? It says that he is not slack concerning his promise, but he desires that none should perish. So he's waiting maybe on you. Or maybe he's waiting on that lost loved one that you've been praying for the last 20 years. Maybe your best friend, maybe your mom. Let's get serious. Let's be glad that God's got patience. Amen. Because we don't, but he does, and he knows why. And so we see that sometimes we get conditioned in this world for quick. But sometimes some things are worth waiting for. Sometimes things are not immediate. What we have to decide is, do we want quick or do we want quality? That's what we've got to determine. In order to keep going, though, we need a fuel source. We need something to prime the pump. When we think about fuel source, obviously we get down to things like, gas and oil and diesel and electricity and coal and any type of material that can make stuff run. Anything that can make stuff run. Anything that can give it power. The disciples, and I believe absolutely for today's time, the believer, we have one mission, and it has not changed. Go and make disciples. That's what Jesus said. Go and make disciples. So the task sometimes, it seems really hard because, again, we live in a world of what? Opposition. I don't want to hear it, or that's not what I've heard, or that's not what I've determined. And we get into this, again, continual bickering back and forth about this. But what we find through this, it's about perspective. How do we see things? Oftentimes it absolutely all boils back down to the way that we see it. Our mission, sometimes it seems difficult. Sometimes it seems really, really hard, and we seem to be kind of running low on fuel because I just don't know how much longer I can do it, or I just don't know if I can be rejected anymore. All these different things. What about perspective? Do we see the glass half empty, or do we rejoice there's still some left? That's our perspective, because if you're thirsty, if you're parched, if there's 2 swallows left, you're glad that you got that much, right? It's about perspective. It's all about how we look at it. It's too difficult, but in the challenge, am I growing? Okay, that we have to look at which side. Do we look at how long something is going to take, and we complain, or are we grateful that we still have more time to enjoy it? Which side do we fall on? Because it's an easy place to get. And because once we get on the wrong side of that, we begin to lose focus on our mission. Because this is too hard, this is taking too long, it's too complicated, and so on and on. So do we see it as too hard? Or do we find the challenge helpful in preparing us for our mission? Because when we look at our end goal, what is it going to take for us to get there? You know, we've all been through some type of training in our lives, you know, whether it's to serve in the military, maybe it was to serve in law enforcement, maybe it was to just be anything, go through school, whatever. We've all been trained in some type of way. But can any of us say that on the day one that we showed up, we were ready? No, you didn't know anything. You were banking on the person instructing you that they had hopefully some kind of idea of what they were talking about. So we look at life as the same way. It's a journey. It's a mission. And God is preparing us for that. And he's not just leaving us with just, hope it works out. He doesn't do that. No, I'm going to give you the source. I'm going to give you the strength. I'm going to give you the ability to make this work, to be able to find your way so that you can not only be successful in the sense of you accomplish what I've asked you to do, the whole well done and good and faithful servant thing, but that you've made an effect. In other words, you've borne fruit along the way, because the book of John says you please God when you bear much fruit. And I believe that when we see what is going on here. So we think about our mission. Then we move to our journey. Our journey is oftentimes filled, and we know this, it is filled with hills and mountains and valleys and peace and storms and goods and bads and uglies. And there's no set amount of how many of those might come in the course of a lifetime, right? You know, depending on how long we've been around and how many we've had. And it's not always about age. It's always just kind of the path that we're all on. But how do we make it? How do we get there? That's the question that we look at. So we turn to this account today, starting in verse 4. Again, it is just before the ascension. It's about to happen. This journey that the disciples have been on, it has been exhausting. It has been exciting. It has been discouraging. It has been sad. It has been happy. It has been emotional. Wait a minute. Why does that sound familiar? That's life. Isn't that kind of how it works? Up and down, ebb and flow. It's all over the place. That's been their journey. Oh man, we got it all figured out. Oh, maybe we don't. Oh, today is going to be the day. Oh, maybe tomorrow will. That's life. Again, that's not negative. That's not pessimistic. That's real. You know, we have great days and we have not so great days, right? We have days that we're happy and jubilant, and days that we have to fuss. I mean, we have. Sorry, Teresa, but we think about that. That's just reality. That's how it works, and we see that's been the journey that they're on. And this journey, though, what we find in here is now they're preparing for the next part of that journey, and they're not ready. They're not ready to complete the assignment. There's one component missing. You need the fuel, if you will. You need the battery pack. You need the one thing that's actually going to power this system and make it work. This journey is not complete. So there's an assignment for them, but we need to understand this assignment still holds true for us today, right? And so that assignment is to tell people about Jesus. Tell people who he really is, and that what he came and did for all who will receive him. Okay, that's a powerful message. And we think, well, you're sending me into the world to do that, and I have no clue what I'm doing. I have no strength to fight that because we're talking about something that is overwhelming, because instantly, as the disciples have learned through the lessons that we've been studying on Mark, and again, I want to encourage you, this past week we had our greatest attendance ever for our Wednesday night. It was absolutely fantastic. If you haven't been a part of that, you want to come and be a part of that. It's a great discussion. We find the journey, if what they're seeing through this is, boy, there's a lot of stuff out there that we're going to have to fight against. You know, we've talked about in this study about being prepared and having our full armor and walking with the Lord and all the different components of this. And so we're seeing, okay, there's something else to make this work. There's something that will crank this engine. There's something that's going to make it work. And we find the answer today. It says in verse 4, while he was with them. Okay, so what do we take from that? All right, he was physically standing there. All right, he was literally there with them. So why is that important? Because, of course, they're talking to him. Well, the reason that that's important is because he's giving them this message directly from him. There is no confusion about the message, and there's no confusion about the assignment. This is directly, literally a word from God. He is telling them, he says, so he is standing there. And then it tells us he commanded. Now, I said earlier when we were reading this, I would bring that up. We need to understand what he's reading here. He's saying he commanded them not to leave Jerusalem. He commanded. He's not suggesting. He's not asking them how they feel. He's not asking them if they want to. This was clear instruction. Okay? That is important because a lot of times today things are kind of cloudy. You know, well, maybe if you want to, or press this one if you'd like to, but this one over here might be better. I mean, we're always given an out. We're always given another option. Well, sometimes, if we're honest, sometimes it's not an A, B, or C type thing. Sometimes there's one answer and only one answer, and that's the only one that's going to work. We can certainly choose others, but we can't expect the result. Right? It's like taking a test. You know, if they give you the test and the question is who is, George Washington, was he the first president or the 43rd? You should know, if you know the answer to that, there's only one, right? There's only one. And if you mark the other, you get the question wrong. That's just how it works. Well, life is the same way. And we see here the Lord is saying, I am telling you, I am commanding you, do not leave Jerusalem. This was not for him just to be stern. This was not him to seem like, hey, I'm the boss, I'm in charge. No, he's been preparing them for this journey all along. And he's like, I don't want you to leave unprepared. This is how you get there. And if you trust me, you'll listen to me. If you'll trust me, you'll do what I'm asking you to do. He's been getting them ready. And now they are about to be sent. They are about to be sent. And he's going home. He's not going to be walking with them this time. So it was imperative that they listen to him. Isn't that still true now? That we listen to what God's asking us to do. He's preparing us to do something, right? But he's not leaving us without the ability to do it. We sometimes miss that, and we'll talk about that in a minute, how we get to that place. And so here we see he's telling them, do not leave Jerusalem, but wait for the Father's promise. They needed the fuel for the journey. We need the fuel for the journey. So he told them, do not leave Jerusalem, but wait for the Father's promise. He said, you've heard me talk about this before. That was the test. Have you been listening? You knew something else was coming. But we hadn't talked about that, but you've heard me make reference to it before. You knew something else was on the way. You knew there was more. That's a testament to whether you're listening or not. Oftentimes, that's a testament of our faith today. Because we lose faith oftentimes in the sense of, well, it took too long, it's too hard, and we let stuff get in the way, and it takes our directive off. That's like when Mary and Martha came out and, at the raising of Lazarus, and they said all these different things, and he says, but do you believe it? That's a huge question. I know you know it, but do you believe it? Isn't that a test sometimes of all of us if we're honest? I know that you know, but do you believe it? Because when we believe it, we trust in it. When you believe it, we enact on it. I've used this reference before. If I believed that chair would hold me if I came and sat down in it. But if I continually just walk around and never sat down, and I don't know that I necessarily prove that I believe it, right? I tell you it, but do you believe it? So here we say, I'm preparing you for this journey. You wait here for the Father's promise. John baptized with water. But you, speaking directly, specifically to them, you will be baptized with the Holy Spirit in a few days. That's our journey, okay? I'm preparing you. I've given you the mission. Now we're on this journey, and I'm giving you the ability to go do it. I'm not just sending you out with no information. I'm not just sending you out just to say, well, go give it a try. No, I'm preparing you specifically. I'm preparing you with the words. I'm preparing you with the ability, but I'm preparing you with the strength. Because again, if we've got a big race in front of us, let's just say you're a runner, right? And you got to do a 10K tomorrow or the marathon or something like that. And not one day this year have you trained. Not one. Your endurance is zilch. You ain't going to make it very far. Okay? You're just not. You're going to get out there and you'd be sucking wind in no time at all. That would be me. I would probably get blowed up walking to the start line, much less because I don't like to run. But when we think about it's preparation. Am I ready to do this? It's no different than for me throughout the week. I mean, starting tomorrow morning, I'll sit down at my desk and we'll start thinking about next Sunday. And praying and trying and looking and preparing all week long. I had a guy that I knew years ago. He would call me most of the time around Tuesday or Wednesday. Say, "Man, how is going on?" So I said, "Well, I'm studying and working on next week." And he was like, "Oh man, you do it that way?" I'm like, "Well, yeah. What do you do?" It's like I just get up there on Sunday and see what happens. I don't have that kind of faith. I want to be prepared. I don't because I don't want to just get up here and ramble. And it's one thing if we're going to get up here and do a stand-up act, right? Okay, we get up here and tell jokes and be funny and maybe just let things fly off the cuff. But man, that could go all kinds of places that you may not ever have one point that comes out of it. May have been entertaining, may have been whatever, but you didn't get anything out of it. If we're going to tell stories, we got to have a start. We got to have a middle. We got to have an end, right? That's how it works. Because you want it to be compelling, but you want it to also be something that is like, wow, I never really thought about that before. That helps me in my journey. That helps me, gives me something to pray about. That gives me an incentive to go back and read. What does this say? Does that guy know anything? Because I don't want it to be about me. I want it to be about him. And this is why he was preparing them for this journey in the way that he was. He's saying, you're going to go forth, but you're going to represent me. This is not about you. Yes, your names will be written. Your names will be recorded. Your names will be, accolades, and people will know who you are and all those other kind of things. But your messaging will always be me. It will always be pointing people to me because I am the only saving grace that there is, right? And that's what's so important. And he couldn't let them just go unless they were prepared. And it's the same thing. So we look at our mission, we look at our journey, and then we see, though, the word in here, wait. And that really kind of gives us a little bit of a stump, right? Our waiting. We typically struggle with that because we don't like to wait. We don't like to wait in traffic. We don't like to wait in line. And we just see it more and more and more. A lot of people thought that when they did the self-checkout gimmick at Walmart, it was going to reduce waiting in line time. It didn't work. Now you got to wait on somebody else to get out of the way so you can get to the thing. And if you go to the one like I went to the other day, the entire store, the front end was closed except for 3 of those self-checkout gimmicks. And so the line was all the way down to the freezer department and everybody trying to get out of the... Anyhow, so we don't like to wait. We have it happen all the time. We struggle with that. But sometimes we have to realize sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes it's necessary because, like we find here at that moment, they weren't ready. They didn't have the power they needed to complete the journey, so they had to wait, right? He said, you will not leave, you do not leave, because it's important, but we don't want to wait. We don't like to wait. But here's the 2 differentials that I want us to see. At that moment, in this particular verse, as we're looking here in verse 4, they didn't have the power they needed to complete the journey. They did not have it at that moment. We do. We do. We do, but yet still we remain waiting. We remain in that holding pattern because we don't realize and we don't understand the fact that, friends, we do have the power. We do have the strength. We do have the fuel, if you will, to do what God asks us to do. But we keep looking for other fuel sources. We keep looking for maybe this will work. And maybe that'll work. We keep looking for different ways, different alternatives. But today, what I want us to do in these last few minutes together, I want us to understand it's time to refocus. It's time to get back to understand, what did God say? There is no alternative source. There is no different one. There is no this. There's one, and God will give it to us. And he's already done that when we came to know Christ. He indwelled us with the Spirit, the power of the Holy Spirit, the power of God. We have the Spirit of truth. It is living within us, right? We need to understand what it is he's trying to show them has been shown to us if we'll understand what he's trying to say here. See, Jesus told them, wait. Wait. The ability to wait, and I don't know, I read this morning. I don't know how or where this came from, but the Lord gave it to me, I guess. But the ability to wait often rests in what we believe is the result. Think about that. I can wait if I believe in the result. I can wait because I say the result is worth it. All right, that's where we get hung up on it. It's still hard because we get impatient, right? We're peeking in the oven to see if the cake is rising or the meat is looking better. Or we're doing it. We're always doing that, right? But if we trust that it will be worth it, we don't mind waiting so much, right? We struggle with it, but we don't mind. Babies, okay, that's a 9-month wait. But you think of the end of that. You get to hold that little guy or that little girl. Cherish those quiet moments until they turn 4. No, but babies, okay, you'll get that in a minute. Great meals, okay? Man, it's taken a long time to cook that, prime rib or whatever you do. But, oh, man, the smells in the air stuff is going to be worth the wait. I can't wait for the first bite. All those different things. And vacations, we've been saving for this dream vacation for 40 years and we finally get to go. I'm 100 now and I don't know if I'm going to enjoy it, but I'm going, right? We do that because we think it's worth the wait. But how about this one? Eternity. Is that worth the wait? My pastor is so hard. But we've got a vision in front of us, friends, to keep us going. It is the days before us that God has promised that there will come a time He will wipe away every tear. There will be no sickness. There will be no pain. That is in front of us. That day is coming. That promise is coming to where evil will be ceased to exist. It will be gone. And all that which, brought those harms and those pains. I mean, I love this. I saw this past weekend. It made me think about, the enemy. The enemy is always trying to tear us apart, right? He's always trying to create this. And I love this. Someone wrote this past week. I'll never take credit for it because someone else. They said, God will rebuild you in front of the one who broke you. That's what the enemy is seeing us grow every day, whether numerically, spiritually, all these different ways. When we keep a stand and we use this fuel source that we've been given to say, I can do it. We sing it, of course, at, Easter time, because He lives, I can face tomorrow. We have all these great cliches, but let's embrace those. I can do this because He who is in me is greater than he who is in the world, right? We have all these things that we can quote, but let's start not just saying it, let's live it. That's where our challenge comes from here. So we see if we have the vision in front of us to keep going, let's keep going. We get tired. That's true. We get discouraged. We get grumpy. We get all those different things. We need fuel to keep going. But in the course of that, the struggle that we sometimes have is, well, Pastor, I thought it was all going to change when I came to know Jesus. Friends, understand this. It did change. But we never stopped being human. There was never any promise for that. We don't now have tights and a cape and all of a sudden we're bulletproof and nothing's ever going to go wrong. Okay? It's like Andre Crouch said, if I'd never had a problem, I wouldn't know God could solve them. Okay? I would never know what faith in God could do. I wouldn't have to have that if everything was smooth sailing and everything was an 8-lane superhighway with no potholes. Okay? I'd never know that, that something was wrong. But maybe it was hitting that pothole and unpleasant and we didn't like it, but it caused me to notice there was something else wrong that was actually a major thing that now I can fix. But I didn't know that was there before. That's reality. Sometimes we run out of steam. Sometimes it's just hard. Here we see the Lord telling them, I've spoken to you about this before. He says, here, wait on the Father's promise, which you have heard me speak about. Verse 5, for John baptized with water, but you will be baptized with the Holy Spirit in a few days. Well, this is a reference to John chapter 15, verses 26 and 27. I'm not going to read it all, but in part, it basically says when. Now, that's a key word, when. That doesn't mean if. That means this is going to happen. It's just, I'm not telling you exactly when the appointed time, when the helper, the counselor, the comforter, whichever version you're reading, comes, the one that I send to you from the Father, the Spirit of truth. In other words, this is a reminder, I've been preparing you for this journey all along. Sometimes when we kind of reach the crux of the matter, we get to that one thing. If we'll stop, just like the disciples after Jesus is gone, after the ascension later on, they would be like, oh, wait a minute. He told us that before. Sometimes along the journey, we don't necessarily get the lesson in the lesson, but later on we look back and like, oh, wow, my grandma told me that 40 years ago. My grandfather told me that sitting on the bank of the fishing pond when I was a little boy. Or my dad told me that the day that I was leaving for college. Or my mom told me that the day before my wedding. Whatever, all these different advices and things that we have throughout life. And we realize we've been being prepared for this journey all along. All the steps have been there. Have we always listened? No. But that doesn't mean that it wasn't there. That doesn't mean that it's still not available. It's in that memory bank. It's in that place that we can go and pull from. And here God is telling us, I told you about this before. I told you I was going to send you a helper, a comforter, a counselor. Don't we all need those three? If we look at the titling of that, we would all need those, right? Sometimes we need help. Sometimes we need a counselor. Sometimes we need somebody to talk to. And sometimes we just need a comforter. We talked about that last week. God just walking up and just putting his arms around and just saying, it's going to be okay. Sometimes we need that. You know, there's nothing stronger than that. And we as parents, if you've had that opportunity, especially if your kids get older, I laugh a lot about it. I make a lot of jokes about it. But there's nothing more comforting than getting that opportunity to say, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's been kind of a rough ride, but we're going to make it. There's nothing to be able to offer that to someone, whether it's your child or whether it's your friend or whoever. Here we see Jesus doing that. It's a reminder, I've been preparing you. We need to understand today, we have access to this same help. We have access to this. We read here in typical fashion. Of course, we read in verse 6, oh, the disciples kind of missed it again. They didn't get it, okay, because why? Just like the same reasons we don't. They weren't listening, right? And so we see immediately they went totally somewhere else down a whole nother trail. It says in verse 6, so when they had come together, they asked him, Lord, are you restoring the kingdom of Israel at this time? Now, go back and read the first verses before that and be like, what? That's not what I was just talking about. I mean, it's like, where did we go here, right? And so we see they weren't, but isn't that what we do? Isn't that what we do? We're busy, man. We're driving or we're doing everything, and all of a sudden, whoa, we just lose focus. That's not being critical. That's just being human, right? We get attracted by shiny objects. Something gets our attention, diverts our attention. We're supposed to be doing this. It's very, very easy to do, especially in today's world of buzzers and dings and zings and everything else. So you're supposed to be working on something, and then you get a text. Man, I got to check it, right? I got to check it. It might be important. And then before long, while I'm here, I better check my email. Well, I better check and see if I got any likes on my TikTok. I better check, and then before long, an hour's gone by, and the work is still sitting right there. We can all do it. I'm not telling them myself, but anyhow, we see here they weren't doing such a great job with waiting, right? Think about what the context of what they were saying here. Are you restoring the kingdom? They were like, I'm ready right now. Let's go ahead and get that part done, because that's where their focus was, as he had already told them the kingdom was coming. I'm ready now. I'm ready right now. Oftentimes we hear, again, popular church culture, come Lord Jesus today. But are we really ready for that? We may be individually, but many around us are not. And he's not coming until they are. And that's not gloom and doom. He said, I'm waiting. Because I want everybody to hear. Not everybody's going to listen. Not everybody's going to accept. But I want them to know that I love them, and I want them to know they got a chance. That is so important to the Lord. So here, they weren't listening. But Jesus had not been talking, nor was he talking about that part of the assignment, because he says to them in verse 7, that is not for you to know. That is so powerful. I love this, because that was what he was trying to get them was, I need you to just go out. Our journey, our mission, our call is to show people Jesus, period. That's it. That's our job still now. That's all he was telling them. Don't be concerned with the things that the Father is doing. Don't be concerned about all the other stuff. You just do what I ask you to do. Isn't that a simple task? And sometimes if we've got like 5 things to do, we try to prioritize and figure, which one do I start with? Start with the first one. Well, that's all we've been given is just that one. So that makes it real easy, right? Follow me and go tell people about me. Follow me, understand, emulate me, understand what I do, who I am. All the other things, he's saying, I'll take care of that. I'll take care of that. Don't worry about it. We've got that covered. Okay, we see that again in verse 7. He says to them, that is not for you to know times or periods that the Father has set by his own authority. This was as clear could possibly get when it pertained to the vision and the task. In other words, what he was saying is, just do what I called you to do. And I love that because, again, we're in an era now that we're seeing a lot of prognostications and a lot of predictions and stuff like this. This particular verse, as it is written, it shuts down the date setters. Okay, that's done. He said, don't do that. Don't worry yourself about that. Clear that out. It is not for you to know. I love that. It is not for you to know times or periods that the Father has set by his authority, as clear could be. So what he was saying to them is, forget about all that. Let's get back to the task at hand, and that is to share Christ. That is the call to be the lights of the world, the salt of the earth. And he said, and I'm going to give you the help to do it. I'm going to give you the ability to do it. So, what is our fuel? How do we get there? What is our fuel? Let's look at verse 8. He says, but you will receive, what's that word? Power when the Holy Spirit has come on you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and all of Judea and Samaria and to the end of the earth. I love this. All right, he says to them, but you. All right, so we're going to break this down just a little bit. This is basically, we can kind of see Jesus holding class here. Eyes on me. Listen carefully. This is what I'm trying to get you to understand. But you. So he's speaking directly. This is the need that you need to have. This is the concern you need to have. It is a personal message, and it still is to us today. It still is to every single believer today. It is a personal message. This is what I want you to do. All right? So again, beautiful message here. We see that. That is still now today personal. He says, you will receive. That's an affirmation of help. That is a guarantee that it is offered if you will accept it. Now think about that today. Somebody offers you help. What do you have to do to receive it? Say yes. Okay, people offer us help all the time. Sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's, I want to help you with the car insurance. You don't want that help, okay? Because you get that call like 1,000 times a day. But I've worn out the block button on my phone this past week, let me tell you. But when we offer help to one another, we sometimes get, sometimes we get skeptical. What do you want? We've kind of been conditioned to that as well. But regardless of where, why, or how, if help is offered, in order for me to have it, I have to accept it. So he's saying here, you will receive, all right, so it's been offered, this has been guaranteed to be power. Now that word's important. Why? Because this is not I'm just going to try to get by. I'm just going to give you, no. He says, I'm going to give you power, which in other words is the strength to do what I've asked you to do if you'll apply it. So what does that alleviate? Excuses. And we love excuses, don't we? We love excuses. Man, I think we come up with more every day. I told people, and I don't mean this toward any one particular person. or any one particular group, but I've been blessed and fortunate to pastor all over the country, and I've been to places around the world. But I told people years ago, when I was in law enforcement, and you had to deal with crime scenes or especially car stops and different stuff like that, I thought I had heard every excuse in the world until I came into ministry. Boy, there was a whole nother book I didn't know about, because at least the speeder, they were in a hurry or they had to go to the bathroom or something was going on. There was always a reason, but, or I did this because I was whatever. But, oh, boy, that's a whole nother sermon. But we see here, Jesus says, I am giving you power. So you have the ability if you apply it. And then he says, when, again, not maybe, it's going to be offered. The Holy Spirit, specific nature of who's coming, has come upon you. The literal offering of our only fuel source needed to complete the task. We see all this, how it goes down. And then the word and. Okay, that changes the conversation. That pivots the conversation. When the Holy Spirit has come upon you. And so now he's saying, now you're ready. Now you can move forward. Now we've got that out of the way. Now you've got the fuel source. Now we can get there. So again, personal conversation. You, specifically to every believer, he's saying, will be. That's our assignment. That's our call, if you will. All right, now I know this seems like, man, is it every word? No, every word counts in this particular situation because he's giving us the assignment. He's telling us who it's for. He's telling us how to get there. And he says, you will be my. All right, now why is that important? Singular, not confusing. When we know our assignment, it's clear. Go into that room. Go clear that field. Go do this, go do that one directive. Go pick up this pencil or whatever the thing is. Figure out this one problem. That's all. One assignment. When an assignment is clear, it's not confusing anymore. And Jesus said, you will be my witnesses. Mine. Not anybody else's. Follow me. Don't you love the simplicity of that? There's nothing confusing about that anymore. See, everything today is about, well, are we doing this? Are we doing that? Or who said this? Or what historian wrote this? No. Jesus said, me. Look at me. Just keep your eyes on me. And everything will change. You will be my. And then he makes it simple. He says, my witnesses. Now, the beauty of that word is, this is what others see. When we think about the word witness, what did you witness? That's what you saw. If you witnessed a car accident, or you witnessed this, or you witnessed that, you've witnessed something strange fly by in the sky the other night, or whatever. You see all these different things. You see, it's a visual thing. It is a super important fact that we grasp the clear assignment of the fact that he gives us the strength to carry it out. He gives us the assignment, the clarity of that, and the strength. And so as we close, as we wrap this up, I want to focus just for a moment on the word witness. Okay? Oftentimes we get confused with that word, and I don't mean this critical at all. But this is not about when we got saved. This is not about our story of what our life used to be. Our witness is the visible. It is the outward reflection of a changed life of one who's come to Christ. It's just like that lady on that video. Okay, her story, her testimony was her bad life and the drugs and all this stuff. Her witness is being able to walk into that jail every day and say, God changed my life. And it doesn't have to be verbal. We see, when we think about the beauty of what Jesus is trying to teach here, the outward reflection of a changed life is a result of meeting Jesus. This was the assignment. This was the assignment. This still is the assignment. See, this was never, ever, ever about big words. This was never about confusing teaching. This was about, you will be my witness. That's it. It doesn't get any harder than that. That's it. He said, you will be my witness in Jerusalem and all of Judea and Samaria and to the end of the earth. In other words, everybody you meet, let them see me. Everybody you meet, no matter where you go, let them see me in you. That's the task. See, and we say, well, why would it be so simplistic? Or why isn't there more to it? Why don't we need all the complication stuff? And I'll tell you why. Jesus knew, as he's giving this task, as he's giving this fuel for the journey. He knew the world pushes back on words. Well, you can't prove what you're telling me, and I'm going to... It's a bickering back and forth. We know that. That's true. That just leads to argument and division, right? The world pushes back on mere Bible quoting. Again, that's not anything directly against Scripture at all. I love every word. But if that's all we've got, somebody's going to argue with you on that. Every single time. You don't believe that? Get into an argument with a Jehovah's Witness. Get into an argument with anybody else that has any familiarity with Scripture. You might not win. Okay? Because that's not the basis of what we're talking about. We need to be armed with the word. There's no question about that. We need to be prepared. David said, I keep your word in my heart that I might not sin against you. We want that grounding, that foundation. But Jesus said, you need me. You need this fuel source that I am giving you. See, the world argues over facts. The world argues over history. I mean, we still see the continual argument over how long have we been here? Okay, we see it's growing all the time on both sides of the argument. One for the younger, one for the older. We can get into all of this stuff. But here's the thing nobody can argue. Here's the thing no one can argue. A changed life. Nobody can argue that. You're not who you used to be. That opens the door to a conversation about how did you get there? Okay, nobody can refute that. And this is why he said, you be my witness. Don't go show you, because your story will be a part of the journey. Everybody will know that you came to me and that your life changed because of me, and their life can change because of me. No one can argue over the changed life, a life now lived with purpose. One can argue over all kinds of different stuff, over true love and compassion and all this stuff. But Jesus is saying, I'm giving you a helper. I'm giving you one that you can walk into this battle with that will never leave your side. I'm giving you one that will always go with you. I am giving you one that will help you, comfort you, counsel you. You will never be alone no matter where you walk. He said, go into all of Judea, all of Samaria, all to the end of the world. You will never be alone no matter where you walk. Just let them see me. That's all he asked. That's all he asked. He said, I'll make sure you've got all the fuel that you need. I'll make sure your tank stays full. Everything. And if words are needed along the way, I'll give you those too. Finding our true strength. It's already in here. We just got to be willing to use it. Amen.